The high school cafeteria was noisy and crowded, full of students laughing, chatting, and rushing to find a seat. Bright sunlight streamed through the big windows, lighting up rows of long tables. At one of the busiest tables near the center, sat Emily and her friends. Emily was popular, always dressed in the latest fashion, with perfect hair and a confident smile. She ruled the lunchroom like a queen, and everyone knew it. Across the room sat Jake. He was quiet and kept to himself. His clothes were plain and a little worn, nothing like the designer brands Emily and her friends wore. Jake didn't have many friends, and he mostly ate alone. Some students whispered behind his back, calling him poor and weird. Emily had heard those words too, and never bothered to stop them. That day Jake walked toward Emily's table, holding his lunch tray nervously. He looked over at Emily and her friends, then said softly, "Can I sit here?" Emily glanced at him, her face tightening with dislike. Without hesitation, she shook her head and said, "No, this table's full." Her voice was sharp, and her friends giggled. Jake's shoulders dropped, but he didn't argue. He turned away quietly, and went to find another seat. Emily watched him leave, feeling a strange mix of pride and something she didn't want to admit. A small flicker of guilt, but she quickly pushed it away, and went back to talking with her friends, laughing at jokes Jake wouldn't understand. In that busy cafeteria, two very different worlds sat side by side, one of status and judgment, the other of silence and sadness, and nobody seemed to notice the walls they built between them. Jake's days at school were never easy. From the moment he walked through the doors, he felt like he was invisible, like no one really saw him for who he was. Most kids ignored him or looked away quickly. Some whispered behind his back, calling him names like poor or weird, words that stung even though Jake never showed it. He didn't have much to talk about at home, so school felt like a place to survive. His clothes were simple because his family didn't have money to buy new ones. His backpack was old, his lunch sometimes just a sandwich from home. But Jake was strong in ways that didn't show on the surface. He worked hard in every class, never letting his situation stop him. He studied quietly in the library, helped teachers with small tasks when they needed an extra hand, and always turned in his homework on time. One afternoon, during math class, Jake stayed after to help Mrs. Thompson, the teacher, collect papers. She smiled and thanked him quietly. "You're doing great, Jake," she said. "You're one of my best students." That moment meant more to him than anyone at school could understand. But no matter how hard he worked, the rumors about Jake's family never stopped. One day, Emily and her friends overheard a group of students talking by the lockers. "Did you hear? Jake's family is really poor, they say he's not even one of us." Someone whispered loudly. Emily's eyes narrowed. She felt a cold satisfaction, like she was right to stay away from him. That afternoon at lunch, Emily told her friends, "See, I told you he doesn't belong here. Why waste time on someone like that?" Her friends laughed and nodded. They made fun of Jake quietly, whispering about how strange he was. Jake heard some of it, though he tried not to. He kept his head down and focused on his classes. He knew that giving in to anger or sadness wouldn't help. Still, inside, the loneliness pressed down on him like a heavy weight. There was something mysterious about Jake that nobody noticed. He never talked about his family or his home life. When people asked, he would change the subject, or give a small smile and stay silent. Even though life was hard, he never complained or showed frustration. He moved through the halls with calm, like he was carrying a secret he didn't want anyone to see. Emily, watching him from afar, only saw what she wanted, a poor kid who didn't fit in. She had no idea about the quiet strength Jake held inside, or the reasons he kept his story hidden. And Jake, though hurt and alone, was holding on to something bigger than the whispers and sneers. Something that was waiting to surprise everyone. It was a Friday afternoon, and school had just ended. Students spilled out of the front doors, chatting excitedly about weekend plans. Emily stood near the entrance with her friends, flipping her hair and scrolling through her phone. They talked about an upcoming party, the latest trends, and who was dating who. Jake walked out alone, as usual. His hoodie was pulled up, and he carried his old backpack on one shoulder. He looked calm, like always, but there was something different in his eyes that day, something quiet and sure. Emily barely noticed him, until the sound of a car engine made everyone look. A sleek black limousine pulled up to the curb, shining like a mirror under the afternoon sun. The windows were tinted, and the tires looked brand new. Students stopped mid-conversation, staring. Limousines weren't something you saw every day in front of their school. To everyone's shock, the limo door opened, and a man in a sharp black suit stepped out. He walked around the car, and opened the back door with a slight bow. Jake, plain, quiet Jake, stepped forward. Emily's eyes widened, and her friends gasped. Jake paused, then slowly took off his hoodie, revealing a crisp button-up shirt underneath. His posture straightened, and for the first time, he didn't look shy or invisible. He looked like he belonged in that limo. The students around him stood frozen, their mouths hanging open. Jake didn't say a word. He gave a polite nod to the driver, stepped into the limo, and the door shut smoothly behind him. The limo pulled away from the school, leaving behind a stunned crowd. Emily blinked. "What just happened?" she whispered. One of her friends stammered. "Was that Jake?" "He got into a limo," another said. "Like a real limo, with a driver." "I thought he was poor," Emily muttered, feeling her cheeks burn. Her mind raced, none of it made sense. Was he pretending all along? Was it a prank? But no one laughed, it wasn't a joke. There was no punchline. The gossip started instantly. Students pulled out their phones, checking social media, trying to figure out who Jake really was. No one had any answers. Emily stood in silence, her stomach twisting. She had mocked him, ignored him, laughed at him. And now, she didn't know anything about him. The boy she thought was below her had just left in a car, more expensive than anything she'd ever touched. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. For the first time, Emily didn't feel like the queen of the school. She felt small. That weekend, Emily couldn't stop thinking about what she'd seen. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jake stepping into that limo, calm, confident, and silent. The image played over and over in her mind, like a movie she didn't understand. On Monday, rumors were everywhere. Some said Jake's family owned a big tech company. Others claimed he was related to a celebrity. But no one really knew the truth, because Jake didn't post much online. His life was still a mystery. Emily felt unsettled. She started noticing things she had ignored before: how Jake always helped the teachers, how he never bragged, how he seemed stronger than anyone gave him credit for. And she remembered her own words. Why waste time on someone like that? Now those words made her sick. She waited all day to see him. But Jake didn't show up. Tuesday came. Still no Jake. By Wednesday she couldn't take it anymore. She asked around and finally heard from a teacher that Jake would be back Thursday. That morning, Emily stood by her locker, nervous. She didn't know what she was going to say, just that she had to say something. Jake walked in quietly, just like before. He wore his regular clothes again, hoodie and jeans. No limo, no driver, just Jake. Emily took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Hey Jake?" He looked at her, his face calm but unreadable. "Can we talk?" she asked. There was a long pause. Then he nodded. They walked to a quiet spot near the courtyard. Emily felt her chest tighten. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry," she said softly. "I judged you. I thought I knew who you were. And I treated you like you didn't matter. But I was wrong." Jake looked at her, his expression serious. "Why now?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "Maybe seeing that limo shocked me. But I think it just made me realize I never even tried to know you. I was too busy trying to feel important." Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "My family does have money," he said. "But that's not what I wanted people to see. We moved here after a hard time. I didn't want fake friends, or people who only liked me for what I have. So I kept it simple. I just wanted to be normal." Emily felt a lump in her throat. "I was the opposite of that," she whispered. Jake gave a small smile, not cruel, not cold. Just tired. You weren't the only one. Most people see what they want. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I really am sorry, Emily said again, her voice cracking. Jake looked at her, and nodded slowly. Thanks for saying that. There was a long pause. I don't know if we'll ever be friends, he added honestly. But it means something that you came to talk. Emily nodded. I understand. As Jake walked away, Emily stayed where she was, her heart heavy but strangely lighter at the same time. She had been wrong, deeply wrong, but now she saw it, and she would never forget the lesson. Some lessons come quietly. Others arrive in a black limo, and change everything. After that day, Emily started seeing people differently. She paid more attention, not to what others wore or owned, but to how they treated others. She learned that kindness, respect and character mattered more than popularity. Jake didn't need revenge. His silence was louder than any insult. And his strength. It was never about money. It was about grace. Sometimes the person you ignore turns out to be the one who teaches you the biggest lesson of all. So next time, look closer. You might be wrong,